All right, Dogs by Nature, Rufio back again. Again, looking at Baker on the offense. This one comes, again, same game. As I said in the previous video, I'm not really sure how much of this tape is, kind of useful, how much will change, or, what kind of wrinkles we might see, in this upcoming game. But again, it doesn't change kind of the maturity and the skills of our players that we see on this tape, right? The game planning does not change that. So in this one, we're up only 1 point at this point of the game. So it's a little too close for comfort. We really need a drive to come together, put some points on the board, distance ourselves a little bit from the Steelers, get out of striking range. And it is a 3rd and 5 this time as well. So we're a little bit deeper in the game, and this is a must-have it down. So in this play, you can hear a little bit in the broadcast angle of what they're saying. So I'm just going to go play that right now.
So now Keith Butler's defense trying to stop the Browns here. Cleveland is 2 of 7 on 3rd down conversions today with an average yards to go of 10 yards. Shotgun. Mayfield hits his man for the 1st down.
All right, and so for me, you can hear a number of things. First of all, you can hear the protection call, okay, which is JC says rip at some point in the play. And again, that R word typically means we're sliding that protection to the right. And you also hear Baker say, just point blatantly at this outside linebacker up here and just say, hey, he's dropping, right? Don't be fooled by him up at the line of scrimmage, acting like he's going to blitz, putting his hand on the ground, right? Like he's going to rush. Baker just blatantly points out hey, he's dropping. And he ends up being right? He has to drop out in the coverage. Now, how does Baker know that? And what kind of a sign is that for us? And so, again, same takeaway for me is that Baker's really, the game is starting to slow down for him. He's starting to make these reads happen pre-snap to where he can figure out what the defense is going to do, at least to some degree, to put himself and the line in better position to succeed. Right? How many times last year did we see him hit the back step of his drop and then there are 3 guys barreling down on him, right? No quarterback is going to take that kind of beating over the course of a season and just survive year after year after year. Hey, it's 3rd and 5. Maybe they know we got to pass, right? We go to this empty formation. Of course it's a passing formation, right? But let's get our guys some knowledge of what might happen, and some kind of plan for how to block what we're going to see before the snap goes live. Last year we just kind of asked our guys to line up and just be better, right? Just line up and just be better than the guy across from you, which, yeah, if you can do that, great. But what happens when you have some of these monsters in the NFL that are on the defensive line, right? Or we just have a bad matchup that game. Do you just, demand that guy get better, during the middle of the game somehow, physically better? It's never going to happen. So why not give him a leg up in terms of technique, in terms of mental preparation, in terms of having a plan? And of course, as we've seen this year, right, when you give your lineman a chance to succeed, you give your quarterback a chance to succeed, you give your running back a chance to succeed. It all starts with the 5 guys up front. So what do we see on this play? So we see a couple of things. So first, this is right when we're getting set in the formation. You can see something right away is up, right? Because they have an outside linebacker walked out over here, over a wide receiver, and we have a safety who's also walking out there with him, okay? And if you're going to see this kind of 1-over-2 kind of triangle coverage here, where you have 3 defenders and 2 receivers, you could see some sort of bracket there. You could see some sort of, zone or pattern matching type of coverage. But typically, this safety is not going to be right where he is, right? He's so up close to the line of scrimmage that something feels off, right? It feels like we got a blitz. It feels like we're going to have some kind of weird rotation or something coming out the backside. Now, the other thing that we can see, especially as Kareem goes in motion and this linebacker follows him kind of out to that side, is that if we look to the high side, we got David Njoku right here. We got the free safety pointing at him. Hey, don't forget about that guy, right? And that if this linebacker does not drop into coverage, that no one is covering Njoku, right? There's literally no one else out there who can get him. So Baker knows, I think just from that, right? That, hey, that guy's dropping. Don't believe that he's faking his blitz. Keep the protection on and know that if you're Big Jed here, you don't have to worry about him coming in and they probably have something coming in off this right side, so you might want to look in there to help, right? So by just pointing him out and saying, hey, he's dropping, that's what he's telling his line, and he's giving his guys a better chance to pick up some of this stuff that Pittsburgh can do on defense. And we've all seen it over the years, right? How many Browns quarterbacks have we seen just absolutely getting knocked out of their minds because Pittsburgh sent some kind of crazy twist blitz with a safety and a linebacker and, people coming from everywhere. So, just by giving his guys that kind of hint of as to what might happen on the play, Baker is setting his lineup for success. He sets them up for success in protection. He sets himself up for success in, number one, not getting killed. Number two, being able to find an open receiver in time, okay? And then number three, giving his receivers a chance to make a play on the ball as well. So the other thing I think that we as fans, sometimes don't get to appreciate quite that much is that we are enjoying the game from the best seat in the house, right? Like, we can see a large majority of what is happening in the box from the television angle, and from this kind of all 22 angle, you can see everything happening on the field, right? So from our vantage point, it's really easy to see that, hey, ain't nobody out there to cover Njoku, right? Except for that guy. But if you're Jed, right, or especially if you're Jack Conklin, you have no view of that at all to that side, right? You're, first of all, looking at the ball and thinking about the snap count, but second, you're looking at that edge rusher right across from you, right, who's about to come off that line and be in your face, a 300-pound, big, strong dude. So you're not paying attention to that side of the field if you're that guy, but you can hear what's going on, and when they're making calls and getting this all communicated up front, that's what enables them to block this well as a team. So now what this ends up being from Pittsburgh is a blitz. This is what we call a creeper. Some people call it a creeper. Some people call it a simulated pressure, right? And, different people have different distinctions between them based on who you ask. But I'll call this a simulated pressure. It looks like a blitz, but Pittsburgh's really only sending 4 guys. So those 4 are going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to see this guy drop into coverage, and Pittsburgh is going to drop into a Tampa 2 type of coverage. So, this safety is playing games all the time here, but he's going to drop into a deep half. We're going to have a deep half here. We're going to have an actually sit cloud coverage by these corners, and then we're going to have underneath defender here, kind of in a hook. And then this is going to be the carry player who is going to carry, if there's a seam route from the interior receiver, usually number 3, he's going to carry him deep into the seam. That's that kind of run through middle linebacker. So we can really see this coverage kind of play out right here, right as the ball is thrown into the Tampa 2, right? 2 deep safeties, linebacker in the deep hole, staying over the top of that seam route. And then we've got the 2 kind of underneath zone defenders, and we have squatting corners. These corners kind of act like they're going to bail, but they don't really, turn and run and stay over top of these outside receivers. They're going to stay underneath. Now, why is that good, right? Why is that an effective defense from Pittsburgh, and why might we see it again this Sunday? Well, Pittsburgh is kind of famous, they've been infamous for years for running a fire zone blitz, right? Under Dick LeBeau, really got this started, I think, with them, and actually helped probably innovate this scheme. Fire zone blitz typically is a 3 deep, 3 underneath coverage with 5 defenders blitzing, right? And you can kind of mix and match. So there's just going to be, in a fire zone blitz, there's going to be 3 underneath zones, 1 kind of inside guy and 2 kind of outside guys on either side. And then you're going to have 3 deep zones. So that's usually going to be the corners kind of going deep, and then 1 free safety in the middle of the field. So, if we look at this looks like it could be a fire zone, right? Where we have an underneath zone defender here, deep third, deep third, deep third, and then somebody will drop out from each side of the formation, or maybe in the middle to be those underneath 3 defenders. So Pittsburgh is actually doing a really good job of disguising this coverage, right? Because it looks like it is going to be a fire zone coverage, a 3 deep coverage. It ends up being a 2 deep coverage, and we would call this kind of 2 trap from these corners. So, they're going to act before the snap like they're playing that kind of bail technique, right, in a cover 3, like they're going to stay over top of the receivers and play kind of a deep third to their side. And, after the snap, you might even see them kind of turn and start to bail, right? And then if there were some sort of outbreaking route or something underneath, they would kind of plant that back foot and drive forward. That can cause some big hits. It can cause some interceptions as well.
It's a trap.
It's designed so that you try to attack that area of the field, and then they end up having a cornerback there ready to make a hit. So again, a fire zone blitz, typically you would have a 5-person rush. In this instance, it's only a 4. So that's why we call it a simulated pressure, because they're not actually blitzing, right? We're not actually sending numbers forward at the quarterback. We're only sending 4, but we're going to bring guys up the line, muddy things up in here, and then it's not going to be maybe the 4 that you expect, right? Or at least the 4 that we want you to expect. If you're Baker and you sniff this out, right, that's a great job. But we want you to think that these 4 are coming and then bring the guy that you're not expecting, right? That's kind of what the simulated pressure or the so-called creeper is designed to do. So, Pittsburgh is really trying to cause problems by, using that up front with the rush, and then by using a trap coverage back behind it as well. So, this is something I think we're seeing the growth of Baker. This is something last year, especially against the Titans, that, people really kind of picked up on across the league. And they said, Baker he can't diagnose coverage. He doesn't know these creepers. He can't beat these creepers. He can't beat this underneath zone coverage. And I honestly think it was just him not having the keys that he needed in that offense. To maybe understand what the defense is doing, to be able to take it apart. Some things like the simple motion, right? Hiding your intentions and then motioning a guy and seeing kind of how the defense moves. Just those little indicators can really help a quarterback who's smart be able to take the defense apart and get some of these reads done pre-snap, right? Because you got to make a post-snap read as well. But getting as much information before the snap even happens, I think is really, really critical, and it's something that's underrated about offenses. So that's something I'd really give credit to AVP and Stefanski for doing this year. Baker just seems so much more prepared to handle these after the snap, because, if we go to the end zone angle here, you don't have time. People talk about him being a one-read quarterback. If we look at the amount of time that he has to get rid of this ball before the coverage covers up these routes, it's 1, 2 and a hitch, and the ball's got to be out right there. Like, that is not a 5 progression, read type of scenario. You're never going to look at all 5 guys in that amount of time. And if you do, you're panicked and you're not making an actual read of those 5 guys. So you have to know before the snap, hey, I've got an indicator from the defense. I need to read this area of the field, or these 2 guys in this kind of area, or this safety, or something like that. And that's, I think, a large part of what was missing last year. And really, we know that Baker can do this, right? We know that after the snap, when he's given, when his eyes go to the right area of the field, that he's going to understand, how that coverage is leveraging guys. He's going to be able to just kind of take those little glances back to the middle of the field. And if we watch this on his drop back, Baker looks somewhere back to the middle of the field, right? His helmet is pointed somewhere, up outside of this hash here, just to get this linebacker to take that one false step, right? So you watch him as he drops into coverage. Baker takes that look inside, and he just takes one more step inside than he wanted to there. Even though he knew Njoku was out here, Baker just influenced him just enough to create that throwing lane. We've seen him be able to do this his entire career, right? This really started with when he came in against the Jets and just shredded them right down the field. This is what he was doing. So, I don't think it was really number 6 last year who couldn't read the field, or he was a one-read quarterback. I think, there was something just not working right within that offense to get his eyes where they needed to be before the snap, right? To get him an understanding of what would happen before the snap. So in this case, I do think he was a little fooled by the trap, but ultimately it doesn't really matter, right? Because what Baker's reading on this play is, do I have space? Do I have that throwing lane to Njoku, right? And he's just going to kind of turn there and sit down in that hole. It looks to me like Njoku had some kind of a read route here and just read that, hey, I'm in a soft spot in zone. We're in the 3rd and 5. I'm past the sticks. I'm going to get there and just turn around and just kind of sit down in this open grass. And that's a great job of route running if that was the case. So really all Baker has to read on this play is, do I have him open? And the answer is yes, right? So the answer is yes. Fire that ball in there and get it to where it needs to be. But I think you see him kind of after the snap. This is actually kind of hilarious. do that little jump and leg move there, because I think he maybe thought the ball was going a little too high. Right, it hits Njoku in the face mask, which is not bad at all. I think it's totally a catchable ball, but he sees it maybe ricocheting up, and he's worried about that tipping up and being an interception. He also might have seen this corner closing in fast and been worried about kind of getting Njoku hit. So I think that corner squatting on that route perhaps surprised him. But again, it doesn't really matter that he doesn't know exactly what coverage it is, right? Peyton Manning, Tom Brady didn't know exactly what coverage it is. All you got to know is the guy I'm looking at open, right? And can I get it to him? And if he's not, where do I go from there? So again, I think it's a great job by number 6 getting to that on this play. I also want to shout out the line. Somewhere in that broadcast, you heard J.C. Treader again say rip, and that means that we are going to slide the protection again, right? So we talked about half slide protection last time as well. We're going to basically slide from the bubble over, either the center over or the left guard over to the right if the bubble's over the left guard. But in this case, Bitonio has that big old defensive tackle right over him, so he's going to be in Bob there. Jed is briefly going to be in Bob on this outside linebacker, but again, as he was told by Baker before the snap, hey, he's dropping, so he just takes one step out there and makes sure that, yep, that's actually correct, he is bailing out, and Jed goes right back inside to help out Bitonio on this protection. Right off the snap, we should see these 3 slide to the right, as we do right there. Just again, nice wide arms by JC, just making sure nobody is able to just kind of knife through a gap or twist through or anything like that. And if they were, JC would kind of feel them with one of those hands. So just stepping out in that A gap, and then JC does a nice job of redirecting, hand fighting, getting his right arm underneath that rip move of 94. Excellent work by JC, and then he's able to kind of stymie him there. Wyatt Teller this time goes with, I think, a little bit longer of a set, so a 2-step set. Gets a little bit better hand placement. Again, that right hand is still too high, so we can see that get up around the helmet area there. You want that up underneath the pads, right? In the gut or up underneath the shoulder pads. That's just slipping up a little too high for Wyatt, but he's able to control that rusher, redirect that hand, get it back inside, and that's a good job there as well. Last but not least, Conklin, who also has this defensive end lined up in kind of that 7 technique, 9 technique outside. And so he's going to leave that inside arm in as well and just kind of stab him there. If he's charging in hard, that stab will kind of slow him down, lift him up a little bit for Wyatt Teller to be able to buy him some time. And if there's some kind of stunt, right, where these guys are actually going to cross, that gives him time to be able to pick up that outside guy. As it stands, they're just staying, in their kind of rush lanes. Conklin does a good job of just mirroring out. With Conklin, one thing I've noticed is when he gets a little bit tired, his feet get a little close together. So you would love for these shuffles right here, for those heels not to get quite so close, and to be a little bit choppier and a little bit more power with that trail foot. So that's one thing to watch out for Conklin when he gets in bad technique, right? These heels start to get close together like that. But even with that, he's able to redirect, come back inside, and completely stymie that pass rush of a smaller, faster player. Great job there as well. And last but not least, we got Bitonio on the play. Again, he's in a Bob protection. That is the call that he's going to be man on 95 here. But as Baker has told him, right, hey, that guy's dropping out there. So he figures that Jed is probably going to be there to help him with that outside rush. And so as Bitonio sets, he takes that inside little set just to make sure there's no game happening inside. And then he's able to kind of redirect and mirror outside. And as he feels Jed come back inside, right, his Jed's just looking for work and he picks that up, Bitonio can now go in there to really double team on the inside of that pocket and give Baker some room to be able to step up into this pocket if he needs to, or to create a running lane if he needs to leak out on 3rd and 5. Of course, as Bitonio, always great to get a big hit like that, lift a guy up in the air and shove him back. And that's one of these techniques for these defensive linemen when they're getting their hands up in those passing lanes, right, is you just give them that punch in the stomach, that shove, and either being off balance or just that hit into the gut, it will tend to bring that arm back down in a hurry. So again, great job, great technique by our guys up front, but also great job by number 6 before the snap to be able to diagnose this play and beat some of these creepers that have really beat him earlier in his career, specifically last year. And then again, a nod to our coaching staff, who is not only teaching our quarterback and doing a good job of educating our guys about how to approach things, what to look for, how to key, but also giving us the plays in time where we can make changes like this, where we can have that communication up at the line. Because I really do believe this is a strength of Baker. This is something you saw him do in college. This is something that Lincoln Riley talked about with him, coming out in the draft, that what he was able to do up at the line. And I think we want to lean on it as we go forward and really let him kind of just take over. Expand his knowledge of the game and expand what he can do, because when he can get us in good plays, defenses can't stop us. I think we've even heard Stefanski several times this season call out, Baker, and just basically say in press conferences, hey, it's great as a play caller when you call a terrible play and our quarterback changes it to a good one that works, right? So I'd love to see this continue. I hope that we're able to see it this coming week against the Steelers. You got to feel like they're going to have more surprises like this kind of two trap in their arsenal, and we got to be ready to roll those punches come game time. So that's it for me this one, Browns fans. I'm really excited about this game. I'm excited about the progression of our team. Man, I can't wait to just kind of see where this season goes, and then once it's over, however it ends, just dig into the film in the off season as well, because it'll be great to, for once, not have to look to another team to see what kind of schemes our coaches are going to run. So again, as always, visit dogsbynature.com for all your Cleveland Browns news and analysis. The conversation is going to be happening there, so the comments are going to be closed here. But come on over to Dogs by Nature. If you have a question, leave it in the comments, or just want to chat some football. I'll be there for you. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.